So maybe just join me. Mwamba wenye imara kwako nitajificha, maji hayo na damu yaliyotoka humo unisafisha dhambi, unifanya mshindi. And allow me to write on any protocols that have been established. Good afternoon or good evening? Good afternoon. As I prepare to give my tribute, I would like to request to be coming forward, just to stand, not to speak. The Commission on Revenue Allocation team, please just stand and start coming. I am sorry you had been put in the program, but somebody may have felt you fall under constitutional commission, and so you got lost in there. Please come forward, and as you come forward, I would like to request the team of lawyers of Ngungo and team Murugu Nkele, please also, that team, the IBC team, Moses, just to come forward. I'd like to request the home care team, Nangat, Mwangi, Chaha, all that entire team, just be coming forward, please. Lucy, Kutz, of course, my chairman of the subcommittee, please just step forward. And I don't think Professor Guli and Mozu and Marjan are here, but I know IBC is here. And Uganda, please come forward. And your daughter also. Vera is not here, but her children are here. Now, don't be worried, they are not going to speak. And when indeed I start my tribute, feel free to stand there. Once I see you there, I'll get the message. Because it's very, very difficult to put this tribute to speak of the gentleman that is lying there. I've been strong. I've tried to be strong. And the reason I'm strong is because of the support. Mary, please come forward. The support that I have received ever since 20th February, just about midnight. I know there are more people who have supported, but why I'm just calling this team is they have been involved on a day-to-day basis in ensuring that the chairman gets the best, either in terms of support or in terms of spiritual prayers. Chairman Mnamwa, please, I wanted you to come forward. They've been praying, they've supported us in all manner. In the interest of time, I will not mention them. I'll just ask the group of the house team, Ken, the team, Ken and the team, Mkoya, Shaha, Lanat. These have been the caregivers of the chairman. Cooking. Shaha, literally making sure that he's been okay. He was okay initially, but when he started getting sick, then they came. And I don't know if David is here, he's physiotherapist. If you want, please come forward. They've literally taken care of him on a daily basis. Thank you very much. We will get you to speak on Friday during the tribute up country. I also have the team of my sister and my brother, please stand up. Lucy and Kutz, the night the news came in, the news Rachel is talking about, and the chairman of our committee. These are the people who accompanied me to hospital that night. The way the news was broken to me, I was just told he's had a cardiac arrest and he has died. And that was just before midnight. So it was very devastating. It so happened Rachel, as she has said, was away, and my son Jonathan was around, and they were speaking on phone, and Rachel could hear me get the call on the other line. Within no time, she had mobilized the team to accompany me to hospital. Thank you very much. That is Lucy, my sister, and Kutz, my brother, and Makeli Nyongesa. The other people who've been there literally on a day-to-day basis. Every day the lawyers, please step forward. Day-to-day basis, these lawyers have been available. They've been visiting. If it's birthdays, they've celebrated. When the sad news has come in, we have always felt free to share with them. And they have always said, please let us know if you have a problem and if you require anything. Thank you very much. Don't take it for granted. Somebody missing here is one of the lawyers who passed on, Wakili Mutubia, who was also very close with the chairman. Thank you very much. From IBC, I'm Chan, the CEO, current CEO, Professor Guli, and the two other commissioners, Professor Guli and Commissioner Mwodu. We used to call them the four musketeers, because they used to move around together. They made decisions together. So whenever they visited, literally almost every day, and I would always make sure that whoever wants to visit chairman should come around 1 o'clock. Kutz and Nyongesa, it was deliberate. I hope you enjoyed the chicken you used to eat. Thank you, Ken, for providing that lunch. I'll just call Ken when these people say they are coming, and I'll try to make sure it is at lunchtime so that they leave company to the chairman, because that is the best time to have visited. Thank you very much. Let me ask the other Achilles, please, Lucy and team, just to step forward. Yes, again, thank you very much for the support that you have given. We are truly grateful. Lucy is the former PA. Wakilis again supported him. You may not have enjoyed the chicken, but you did support very much. Thank you. So this other team I have, a lady here, Rose Wanja. Rose Wanja is a very good person. This girl was given instructions by the state to ensure that the chairman goes to Germany. And then she goes ahead and she says, you know, I come from Germany. My father was a German. And then she tells the chair, in his state of sickness, you know, I never saw my father. When you go to Germany, please look for my father. And the chair asks, so how old is your father? Do you think he is? Say, just over 100 years. He says, okay, I'll try, but if I don't find it, can I be your father? So thank you very much. I'm sure that the 2 trips that he made to Germany, she was the one liaising with us for the surgeries. I have now my commission here. Anybody else? Again, I'll request them just to step forward. These are the people who I work with and who keep me going in the office. I will start with the commissioners. My vice, who is now in charge of the office and who has been steering, because we are at a very critical stage of that office. Our Commissioner Kuko, so I'll not allow them to speak. Commissioner Wayaki. We have Josephine, who represents the National Treasury. She actually represents the PS Treasury, Kipto. And then there's Commissioner Fatuma Gebi, who I'm told was here, but she has been Because of the fasting, the Ramadan, she's not here. I want to send a special thanks to her. Every morning she has walked with buckets of mandazis, mahamri, biryanis, potatoes. So literally, we have hardly bought mandazis. She has supplemented Kenny with his cooking. So please extend my appreciation to her. Behind is the CRA team, what I call the CRA team. I see some directors, thank you very much, and some of my staff. And I'm very grateful for the support that you have given me. I will not allow you to speak. You will speak on Friday, because that's when we have allocated tributes. So thank you so much. Thank you very much. All the rest of you. I didn't want to take over the program, but I just wanted you to get a feel of the team that has been behind the chair. Ruth Muganda is here. Yeah, she has a right to complain. Ruth Muganda is a very, very dear friend. We come a long way. And also Mary, who people mistake to be my sister. So thank you very much, Ruth. We have been together for, I don't know, many, many years. Yes, thank you, as old as our children. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. In the process, I want to extend sincere appreciation. I know there will be a lot of times. Those of you who supported us financially, please, Margaret, Amanda, please stand up where you are. Sorry, you know you are small, so sometimes we forget you. That is my first cousin. She's a daughter to Rachel, and she's been very, 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 very supportive. Literally kept on coming home, knows the entire story of the chairman, because they used to engage every other time. Sorry, Margaret, I had forgotten you. Thank you very much. I want to then proceed. As I say, I was appreciating the financial support. It's been overwhelming. We were told we shall have a state funeral, but that will happen at home. But again, state funeral, as we still have to get support to meet certain expenses, because as you are aware, if I have to host guests in the village, there will be more of the politicians' guests than my own guests. My own guests are about this number, but I've been told to host 2,000 people. Emil, my brother-in-law, thank you very much. You've been very supportive, always coming home. I hope you enjoyed the salads. We also used to time the time to come home. Thank you very much. Allow me now to just go through quickly my tribute. And as I said, if you feel free to stand presiding, go ahead. I'm very good at taking instructions. So mine is a letter to this gentleman that lies here. A very handsome gentleman, no doubt. Our formal journey between you and I began on the 21st of April 1990, when we solemnized our story, when we solemnized our marriage at Mariakani Christian Center. But our story had started long before that. I first met you when I was attending a training which was sponsored by the National Treasury in Mombasa. I was an accountant then. You were then running your law firm of Wanyonyi and Company Advocates. Most people know me as Mrs. Wanyonyi. Many think Wanyonyi is somebody else. My husband is Wanyonyi Chebukati, so I'm married to the same man. They are not two different men. So I have been Mrs. Wanyonyi ever since I started working. Chebukati surfaced when 2017 came up, but I hardly used the name until 2022. During my mom's funeral, that is when I was introducing the chairman, everybody was shocked, and they were like, oh, so this is a Chebukati. So that is how, you may ask why I'm using two names of his, Wanyonyi Chebukati. Well, maybe I loved him so much that I had to take two of his names, I don't know. But it was an issue even when I went for vetting for my position. Because the parliamentarians thought there was a Wanyonyi and there was a Chebukati. So they didn't understand why I was not using the Chebukati name, but it's one and the same. So before our wedding, my pastor insisted that we undergo counseling sessions. And that was a prerequisite for marriage. You took it to heart, attending every session without fail. knowing that missing even one of them might lead to disqualification. I had a very curly pastor. So, as the wedding day approached, you travel from Mombasa every weekend, sometimes twice a week, determined to see it through. When we were doing our wedding cards, the church insisted on your Christian name. He didn't give his name. I had to call the father to give me his Christian name. That's when I knew he was called Wellington. But as a Christian, he was a true Christian. But I think this phobia of university, when they were in the university being rebels, for some reason, they preferred using their African names. So today you have learned my husband was actually called Wellington. So that's what went onto the card. Wellington weds Mary. So a month after our wedding, I was transferred to Mombasa to join you. So later it became clear to me that the pastor had been testing your commitment. And that was because the sessions he used to come for, I think the pastor wanted to really understand and be sure I am in the right hands. Because my pastor was a Bunyori, and my husband, I was going to get married to a Bukusu. And you know Bukusus, they are like Muslims. They can have more than one wife. So my father had actually cautioned me, and he kept on asking, are you sure you want to go to Bukusu? And if you do, then be ready to have company.
To my father, no one can mess with me when I'm in my bullfighting hat. These were my father's words, spoken to me in his signature witty smile, the last full day we spent together. I just returned from Bilbao, Spain, with a gift, an authentic Spanish hat that they wear during bullfighting competitions there. Initially I hesitated to buy it because I already bought him another gift, but something told me to turn around and go and get it, and I did. When I placed the hat atop his head, in his favorite spot in the garden, he adjusted it, felt the brim, and then he immediately lit up, and he said, I feel like a bullfighter already. Then with that familiar twinkle in his eye, he said, no one can mess with me when I'm in my bullfighting hat. That was the Chebukati the world knew. Strong, resilient, full of conviction. You couldn't mess with him. But through my eyes, you will see him as simply the best father a son could ever ask for. In my formative years, my father instilled in me a deep sense of responsibility. While growing up in our home in Nyali, he entrusted me with the responsibility of managing staff salary and other procurement matters. Each month, I would prepare a budget, present it to him for approval, collect the funds, disburse the funds, and ensure that every employee and casual appended their signature upon receipt. To him, it wasn't just about the arithmetic. It was about the understanding of the value of labor and the dignity of fairness. These skills would later prove invaluable in my career. And this was my dad, the nurturer. On to my high school years, and it was just the two of us in Mombasa during my examination year. The rest of the family had since moved to Nairobi, but my dad stayed behind to allow me to complete my studies. It was a special chapter, and we settled into a routine. Takeout became our staple. We had the Mabakio Mondays, Terrific Tuesdays, Tika Wednesday at the golf club in Nyali, and so on. But eventually we agreed that that wasn't sustainable, and so we started to cook together. He would occasionally bring back mudfish following his hearings in South Coast, and I would experiment with every way possible to make it taste palatable. Those who know mudfish, it is one of the most horrible fish you can try and eat out there. Nevertheless, He would go and make the ugali, and in as much as the seafood wasn't always great, the conversations over those meals that we had were priceless. This was his way of guiding me. It was never forceful, but gentle, trusting, and with room for me to grow into my own choices. That was my dad, the companion. Driving was another bond that we shared. It started in Mombasa, where I often chauffeured him around, and over time I naturally became the designated driver of the family, much to the displeasure of my two older siblings. Together we traveled thousands of kilometers, Mombasa to Nairobi, Kitale, Joro, the Great Rift Valley and beyond. He was always in the passenger seat, guiding me with his steady voice. Of course, road trips went without the hiccups. Whenever I hit a pothole too hard or took a turn too fast, my mother and siblings here behind me would grumble from the back seat. But he would always defend me and he'd say, leave him alone. If I were driving, it would be much worse. That was my dad, the unwavering supporter. My dad was also a believer in my dreams. Following high school, I joined USIU Africa to pursue a degree in applied computer technology, and immediately secured an internship and later a job. However, one evening on the 19th hole at Royal Golf Club, and the golfers know which hole the 19th hole is, I told him that I was going to resign. He was excited at first, assuming that I had gotten a better opportunity, but that wasn't the case. He asked me sternly, how can you leave a job before you get another job? But when I told him I wanted to pursue a master's degree at Carnegie Mellon, he was at peace. Instead, he wholeheartedly supported me by immediately buying me an air ticket, preparing for my school fees, and giving me his blessing, including driving me to the airport. And this was my dad, the champion of continuous learning. While at Carnegie Mellon, he kept close tabs on me, regularly popping in during his work trips. He was proud when I was elected to serve as Vice President of the Student Guild and sworn into office on the same day that he assumed office at IBC, and coincidentally the same day that President Donald Trump assumed office in the United States. One time when my mother and he visited, I had a few friends over for dinner. He asked that we have a group dinner. And unfortunately, 15 people showed up. They were all excited and eagerly eager to meet Chairman, people from varying nationalities from across the world. They just wanted to come and say hello. Later on in life, when he completed his term of office, he was gifted, he had earlier been gifted a Rwandan traditional stick called an inkono, given to great warriors. And when he completed his term of office, he came home, took off his tie, and he reached for that stick. To me, that was symbolic and a poignant reminder that the impact of leadership transcends borders. My dad also supported me in business. When I started my business in Rwanda, we needed some money to secure some premium office space. And so he loaned me Kenya shillings 620,000, interest-free for 12 months. When we repaid him as a company 1 month early, he was proud. But when he learned that the bank had flagged the transaction as suspicious because I was supposedly the son of a politician, he was absolutely furious. The same bank later on refused to open a business account for one of my businesses, citing the same reasons. His response? He closed his own accounts with the bank. Much to the frantic calls of all the managers, he ignored them, hung up on them, and proceeded to close his accounts with that bank, and moved his salary account elsewhere. This was my father, principled, protective, and unwilling to let his family be mistreated. You couldn't mess with him. As my life in business grew, I would regularly consult him, and he would regularly challenge me, given that, after all, he had been in private practice for over 30 years, so he knew a thing or two about business. One evening, following another sitting at the 19th hole, he insisted on escorting me home. I obliged, excited to finally get to show my dad my apartment. He entered and I gave him a customary tour. Kamwambia, ona TV mzee, iko pale, ni sawa. Iko sofa set hapa, wacha nikuonyeshe fridge, and so on. I was very excited to have him over. And then later on, we sat on our balcony, and with my chest proudly out, I said, I've achieved all this because we've got a good client and they're bringing in a certain amount every month. He looked at me, smiled, and with his typical quirky smile, he said, only, hiyo ni kidogo, double it. This confused me. I was expecting a pat on the back. Well done, son. Congratulations on what you have achieved. But here he was challenging me to do more, to be more, and to achieve more. I'm proud I had the opportunity to report back to him that I successfully doubled it as he had initially wished. As time went on, my hard work was recognized and I was invited to CMU to receive an award. It's a prestigious award that only 100 alumni out of 100,000 have received. My parents insisted on coming with me, and indeed he said, you're coming with us, or rather we're coming with you, and you're flying in business class with us. Following that trip, the initial symptoms of his illness began to show, and subsequently, the rest, as the eulogy has been read, speaks to that. But after his first surgery, his dedication never wavered. I had the privilege of staying with him in Germany for a few months as he recovered. In those months, we took daily walks, brainstormed on talking points, and prepared for his upcoming engagements. One of them was the EIP presentation, which he delivered with much aplomb. And again, it was just the two of us in Germany for about 3 months, just as it was in Mombasa many years back. Only now we had upgraded from eating mudfish to salmon, because that is what was available to us out there. When we left Germany, we executed our strategy. I had the privilege of traveling with him to the 2023 Economic Symposium in Abidjan, to South Africa in Cape Town, and to help him prepare for his presentation in Lisbon, Portugal, where he received an award. Despite his condition, he prepared diligently and delivered all these engagements with poise and aplomb. He barely needed talking points. He was speaking from his lived experience. In his final days, my father was surrounded by love and peace. We rallied resources for his care, we safeguarded his well-being, and we made sure that a family member was always by his side. Indeed, nobody could mess with him. Not in life, not in his final moments. Rest well, Dad. I will carry with you your lessons with me. I will carry your lessons with me forever, and keep your heart safe. A symbol of the wisdom you wore so effortlessly, the strength you carried with quiet dignity, and the path that you charted for me to follow. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have been wondering what I was going to say today for the last few days, which is kind of, I would say, ironic to an extent, because the number of scares that we've had for my dad in terms of death scares have just been so many, to the point that at some point I would have dreams of this moment, standing before people and talking at his funeral on a daily basis, starting in 2017 after the election period, 2022 during his sickness. So to actually be here, it's kind of, I don't know if surreal is the right word, but it's just, I don't know, it's very weird. But what I want to say is, I will not read what I have as a tribute, because like I say in my tribute, summary is not my strong suit. I did not write it from beginning to end. I don't know how my brothers were able to do that. And have themes. I've just been reading their tributes and they're pretty good. Just like, but mine, I came up with just things he used to tell me, and this actually wrote at I think 2 a.m. The night before the program was due, and I couldn't sleep because at that point I still didn't have a tribute. But what I will do is I'll just talk off the cuff, and so that I don't keep you here for too long, I've just jotted a few things down that I will talk about, just some things about my dad. So one thing I will say is a lot of people, I think almost everybody I meet who when they learn, oh, you're Chebukati's daughter, the first question they ask me is, how is it like being Chebukati's daughter? And I never really have an answer to that because the Chebukati, most of you know, you knew from 2017. That was just about 8 years ago. I mean, before, how was it like being raised by him? I mean, I was a whole adult before that. Like, he was a whole other human being, a whole other life, you know, before he became chair of IBC. So what I will do is I never usually answer that question, but today I'll answer that question. I think it's the best, a befitting moment to do that. So one thing I can say about my dad, he was a very involved father, very, very involved. He wanted to like every single day, it was always, how was your day, what did you do in school, what did you learn, are you actually improving on what you're working on, what is your goal, what is your plan. Every Christmas we spent together, every New Year's we had to plan about what we want to do the next few years, and he always pushed us and pushed us and pushed us. It was not just, oh, get the grades, it was, how can I help you? He used to ask us when we have our New Year's meetings, how can we help you, you know, achieve your goals? So that's, I think, one thing I was going to say. Two, he expected excellence. He expected excellence, he used to say he expected excellence because he gave us the best of everything. He wanted, so he grew up in Bungoma, then met my mom, who's a Nairobi city girl, and then they moved to Mombasa. My mom, I let her have her tribute, speak to her tribute, but I think my dad always wanted better. He never wanted us to go lower. For him, it was just give us the best, give us the best, give us the best at all times. So that's something I want to remember. And I remember at some point I told him, last year I got to spend a lot of time with him when he was mostly home due to the illness. And I remember I told him that if only I could just be like half of you, I'd be great in this world. You know? And he was like, what are you talking about, Rachel? You're not going to be half of me, you're not going to be a full of me, you're going to exceed my expectations. I can already see it, I know it. And that's what he expected on a daily basis. He expected us to do better, be better. It was always about reaching for the sky. And he used to say, reach for the sky. If you do fall, then you're not too, at least you're not falling below to mediocrity. You're falling at a level of, you know, above average. One other thing, reaching to the sky, I recall when I was finishing university, well, before I go to university, I wanted to study. I was a golfer. I played a lot of golf. My parents introduced me to the game. There were not, I think I was the only girl who played golf, who had a handicap in the whole of Mombasa at that time. The entire time I played from like maybe 9 to 18. So I didn't really have friends to play with. The boys were very noisy on the course, so I didn't really, I would avoid that. So the people I played with are actually my family. I played with my dad and my mom and my brother. Every Sunday we had family golf Sundays. In the morning we'd go to church and then we played golf in the afternoons. And then we would also play, you know, in competitions as a team together. So initially golf was just for fun, and then it reached a point where somebody in Nairobi noticed there's actually a girl in Mombasa who's actually good So then my parents started taking it more seriously, investing more in my training. I recall my dad. I was asked to represent. I was selected, to represent Kenya at the British Junior Open, and at that point, my parents felt like at that point South Africa was the place where people would go for training. But the question was, who would go? With Rachel, she can't go to South Africa alone, a young teenage girl, for 3 months. By the way, my brother was allowed to go alone, but I wasn't at the same age, but anyway. So at that point, I think my mom had some big conference she was handling, so she couldn't go with me. My dad was managing partner at Kutu, his law firm at that point, and he had just become the managing partner. But he told them, this is important, and he said, I'm going to be away. So he left, and for 3 months we spent the whole time in Johannesburg. We just were in a hotel room. Every morning, woke up, took me to the course, to the range. We practiced 6 a.m. to the robust program, 6 a.m., 6 p.m. He was my caddy when we went out onto the course. Basically just hung out with me the whole time. So I think that's one of the things. He really wanted me to be great. And I recall when I told him that I want to be a lawyer, him actually saying to me that, why would you want to be a lawyer when you can be the next, Michelle Wee was the person, was the golfer, or the next Tiger Woods for everybody else. But I really liked Michelle Wee at that point because she took on the boys, the men, in the professional tournaments. So he really just, he was like, no, don't go to my level. Become an advocate. Go beyond, think about going to the US, becoming a golfer, whatnot. But I love golf, and I think I really just love golf because I just enjoyed the family time. But I knew that for me, the professional life was not where I wanted to go. I wanted to be a lawyer, and main part of the reason I wanted to be a lawyer was my father. He always involved me in everything. Like the number of times he'd take me to court with him, and when the holidays, I'll just sit behind. I thought it was really cool, to be an advocate in litigation. Until I became an advocate and started practicing and doing litigation, and realized that I think I prefer commercial law more. But he inspired me, I think, in literally every aspect of my life. So another thing I've written down here is with regard to him being Bukusumani, there's this concept that, as a woman you should sit back, not speak, all that. Unfortunately, fortunately, I'm half Bukusu, half Bunyore, so on the Bunyore side, the women did not know how to sit back. But on top of that, my dad was not a Bukusu man in the sense of that he did not only let my mom speak up, he pushed her to speak up, pushed her to the limits, pushed me to the limits. I recall when a very particular time when we had my grandparents over at our house in Mombasa. We grew up in Mombasa, and my granddad and some of the elders were sitting outside in the garden, around on chairs and talking. And then I was about maybe like 7 or, I don't know, maybe like 10 or something. And I just went and pulled a chair and sat next to them. And everyone's really laughing. And I think my grandfather, or is it one of the other elders, said something about, no, you should go back. And I was like, no, let her sit. And not only did he say, let her sit. When we went back into the house later on that evening, I was telling my mom the story of how I came, sat there and crossed my legs, and crossed my hands like. And that memory actually brings back another memory which is of when, the team of the elections, his advocates team of elections. Mr. Kumbo spoke on their behalf. The entire team, I think the smaller team Mr. Kumbo mentioned, he asked to stand. I don't think that you guys had my brothers and I, but we clapped for you because you guys are great friends to my dad, thank you. But the story here is that at that time when they were preparing the election petition, 2022, I was very much involved because I was around, and I recall sitting in some of those meetings, and the very first time I sat and just giving my opinion and contributing, and my dad went back to my mom to say, Rachel is there talking to very, very senior lawyers like their peers. But basically, he just pushed me to not feel like I cannot do anything. He always used to say, people are just people. You can walk into a room, it's just a matter of confidence. And he pushed me to just have that confidence, which he has. He has this I don't know if to call it overconfidence, which I think we partly also learned from the golf course. Just set your mind to something, say you want to do this and do it. And that's how we play golf together as partners. We would literally just take the risk. It was always about taking the risk. We never took the safe shot. Even if it made more sense to take the safe shot, we always took the risk. Because we'd always say, we take the risk, it goes bad, we'll recover, and we'll still recover. So, and that also ties into what I have said in, I think I mentioned my tribute. He always used to tell me, giving up is not in our vocabulary. Whenever I'd have an issue, whether it was at work or whatnot, my dad always used to say, Rachel, giving up is not in our family vocabulary. Like, you have to keep going. Like, giving up is not an option. And not only did he say it, he lived it. And he lived it not only during the election period. And when I say election period, it's not just 2017 and 2022. 2007, when my dad stood for elections, it was also a very difficult time for our family, because I recall, and like it was for a lot of other Kenyans, but I recall being at home as cousins, and my parents, my uncles, aunties were all up country. They'd gone to support my dad, who was running for MP at Sabata, as it was called then. And it took them almost, I don't know, in my head I think it's like 2 to 3 weeks to come back home because there were no flights. It's a very difficult time. People were being stopped, so anything could have happened. So the interesting thing is, I don't know whether it's a coincidence, but the fact that my dad went through that experience and also lost his election in 2007, which he felt was unfair. He didn't feel like he lost, but anyway. I hope I can see that being a news headline. So because of that, he and I had a conversation about, because when the IBC job was advertised, the very first time I recall, very few people applied, so it was no one was shortlisted. So when the second advert came, because my dad and I had always had conversations about elections, politics, international affairs, we'd watch CNN together, we'd watch Al Jazeera late into the night. He was like me, could barely, sleep, so I'd find him watching, in 3 in the morning I wake up, I'd find him watching CNN. I loved Al Jazeera, so we'd always have that. So when it came to that, when he started considering that job, applying for IBC, I recalled telling him, in my opinion, you're the best person to take this up because you went through it, you have been a victim, of stolen elections, just put it out there. And not only that, whenever we spoke about it, he would always say, I would do this differently, I would do this differently, I would do this differently. So it's like, this is your chance, do something, about it. So I think you should do it. Like I said, our home is very democratic. It's like, but it's the kind of democracy that you find in a Security Council, because we all have a say. We'd have family meetings. Anyone can call a family meeting, but of course my parents have veto power. So on any decision we make as a family. So for instance, on whether he should proceed to actually put in his application for the IBC job, he asked us for our opinion, because it was at that time, there was a lot surrounding that job, so he asked us for our opinion, and that was my opinion. You have all these great ideas. I think you should apply them. Excuse me. And I know at that point he was also considering judge. My dad had always seen the Court of Appeal, or as the epitome, or as the epitome of his career, being a judge. At that time it was Court of Appeal. So, but he put in his application and he got it. And like I say, him putting it in was, okay, he in my opinion, he was the best placed person for that. I lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. I was talking about not giving up. So, in one way he did not give up is during his sickness. So when he was first diagnosed, I remember I was at work, it was maybe 5:30 p.m. and he called me. And then he told me, call your mother now. I never had him say it like that, call your mother now. My dad is very soft-spoken. Even when he's annoyed at me or anyone, he will not have to say anything. Actually, sometimes you just be disappointed in yourself, and apologize. But he said that, and I called my mom, and then next thing I know, he has this brain tumor. It might be cancerous. We have to, get him a surgery. That was early May. That was April 30th, 2023. He had his surgery in the first week of May, 2023. And at that point, just before, on the day that we had found out his diagnosis, I was set to go to Uganda for a petroleum conference. I think it was my first international conference from work. So I was really excited about it, and I'm supposed to be a speaker there. And I remember saying, no, I can't do this, I can't go, I have to be there for you during the surgery. And my dad insisted, no, you must go. You must go to the conference. So we agreed. My mom and my brother will be there for accompany him out for the surgery out of the country, because he insisted I must go. And but at the same time I said, even if I go, I'm not ready. I don't have the mental space to actually prepare for it. He said, no, Rachel, you better prepare. You're not just representing yourself, you're representing our family. And that's how we used to have, that's how we move, whatever we do out there, it's not just me, it's our family, So I went, and of course the whole time I was worried, and I was with, I don't know if she's here, one of my colleagues, who we prepped basically most of the night. And then I did my presentation. Meanwhile, my dad was having his surgery. He finished his surgery. After 2-3 days, he was able to talk, which the doctors found remarkable. As always, he's an overachiever. So after 2-3 days, the first conversation I'm able to have with him now after surgery, and I asked him, how are you? How are you feeling? How does it feel to have something, your head's removed from your head? And the first thing he asked me was, how was your presentation? I was like, it's okay. Did you prepare for it? I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah. I hope you made the family proud. I was like, yeah, I did well. So my dad, he wanted us to proceed with our lives, to still continue doing better, being better. During his entire sickness, he was given a few months to live. But I recall him saying, this sickness is not going to beat me. I'm going to fight it. And he did. So he opened a whole home gym. He was in the gym every morning, every evening. He was taking his medicine time. He was, doing everything, eating healthy. And then he beat it for a while until it recurred again in November of 2023. And the interesting thing is, by November, he had already planned all these international conferences he was supposed to go for. And then we asked him, so what do we do now that, are you still gonna go? He said, yeah, why not? He's still going to go. Because the doctor said it's recurred, but it's not big enough to be removed. So he decided to continue his life. And what we said as a family is somebody will accompany him for each of them. So recall I accompanied him to Portugal, and that was one of the first ones he did after his brain surgery. And after he finished the presentation, which he did remarkably well, I just saw him very tired. And I think at that point, that's when I started to realize the chemotherapy is actually taking a toll on him, and I didn't realize it. But despite that, you couldn't tell, no one could tell, So he always kept pushing himself, and that's what he did. Pushed himself and lived for over 20 months, despite the doctors telling him he only had 4 to 6 months to live. So again, just kept pushing himself. And his positivity, his drive, his confidence is what pushes me as well to just continue doing better, to live to the expectations that I have set for myself. And towards his last days, the way, like I said, we've had many death scares. Leave alone the elections. So it was April 2023, and then around October 2023, I was with him. I was home because Mom had traveled. So in the middle of the night, he woke up and was a bit stiff. So we were told that was another problem. Apparently, he was having a seizure. At that point, I didn't know, but somehow my brother and I Googled that when this happens, you're supposed to increase this anti-seizure medicine, and we did. And we went to hospital the next day, the doctor said, you guys actually, you did what I would have said you'd have done. So that was another scare. April 23 was another scare when he had to do his second surgery. Then there was December 2023. And then there was more recently, February 2020. Sorry, it was December 2024, April 2024, December 2024, and more recently February 2025, when he was admitted in hospital, again at ICU. I think this was his 3rd or 4th time in ICU. My brother and I was so confident, he's been in, he's been out. So I was actually selected, I was not in the country at the time. I'd gone for a fellowship, UN fellowship that I was selected for, and I was debating between myself, should I go, should I not go? And I asked my mom said, do what your heart feels. He was in ICU at the time. And then I asked my brother, what do you think? And he said, you know what, Daddy would have wanted you to go. And besides, the number of times he's been in and out of the ICU, he always scares us and then he comes back. So he's going to come back. So I left to Addis Ababa for a month, packed my stuff for 1 month, knowing that my dad would go into ICU, beat it, come back, and knowing that that's what he would have wanted me to do. And then one day after being there, I get the call from my mom in the evening. She didn't even need to say it. She just said, yeah, the hospital had called her, and they want her to come in, and they were not telling her what they want her to come in for until she pushed them. Until they mentioned it. So, the funny thing is, I didn't, as much as yes, he was sick, it didn't actually occur to me this day would actually come because of how confident he was in just pushing himself and on how confident he was in his will to live. The other day, my mom and I were having a discussion about maybe, I don't know, talk of universe or whatever, maybe I needed to leave the country for him to go. I don't know. Because, I don't know. It just, yeah, because it's not making sense to me how I left. But at that point, I just knew he was going to be okay. But then he wasn't. So, yeah, but what I want you to take, I guess, away from this, and for me, I think to my dad, he was not just a father, he was literally the best father anybody could ever ask for. The best father any daughter could have ever asked for. I'm so grateful for him. It's sad losing him at 63. Of course, you want him to be there for you in your future. You want him to be there to see your grandchildren. That's one thing my brothers and I guess were not able to give him before he passed. But my future children, I know for sure, and my future nieces and nephews will know his name, they'll know his legacy, they'll know who he is. And I will, yeah. Sorry, I don't know how to conclude. I'll probably just keep going. So I'm just going to say to Daddy, I think rest well. As much as you have been sick for some time, you'd expect it to be, okay, I don't think it'll be easier, but it's still hard. And I guess he needed to rest. Maybe I didn't take that into, consideration. I just wanted him to be here.